You are listening to Radiant Creators, a collaborative project composed of people whose passion, purpose, and dedication requires forging their own unique path of empowerment and livelihood. A Radiant Creator isn't making a living, they are living.
Welcome to the show, Ted Marchildon. This is Radiant Creators, and I was introduced to Ted by David Devine and realized needed to get him on the show to talk about the amazing hydroponic system he has developed. It's unlike any I've seen before. I can't believe I haven't heard about it sooner, but I've heard about it now, and I wanted people to see it and also know who Ted Marchildon is. So welcome to Radiant Creators. Ted, how are you doing? I'm glad we finally got connected. The forces of evil definitely were fighting us today, but we have defeated them, and now we are connected.
Well, thanks, Craig. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, evil. I wasn't sure there was any evil when I was younger. I didn't think there was. My parents were, very Catholic. And I was the baby of the family. I'm pretty sure I was a mistake, So they were in their 40s when they had me, and they were told I wasn't going to make it out of the oven,
Yeah.
So Mom turned her thing around, and she was one of two survivors from World War II. She was part of a dance troupe that was getting radiation for blemishes, so she's got a tale or two, but she's gone now. And then Dad was one of three survivors from D-Day, parachuting in, behind enemy lines. So the odds of me being here are kind of slim.
But you made it.
I made it.
All of that.
And so I think I'm my mom's revenge here. I'm still waiting to actually kick it home, but I think it had to wait for the darkness to start leaving, and I think we're getting close to that.
I like the hopefulness, so definitely let's talk about that. But just so people know, Ted Marchildon, I believe that's how you'd say it.
How about it's like march, like French for marching.
Yeah.
And children slammed together.
Marchildon.
Right?
Marchildon.
We said there's no R, right? Or there's there's no R in the children anyway. No, yeah. Yes there is. Marchildon.
So Ted Marchildon of Omega Garden Hydroponics Design, and well, of many things. But here you are, and so like I say, amazing hydroponic system, and let's talk about that for sure, and everything else that comes to mind. After meeting Ted through David Devine, like I said, I realized he's a deep, entertaining character, and let's just chat about whatever. But are your pictures working? We're trying to share the screen there. I see some gray squares.
Oh damn! Because on my side, I'm rolling through a what do they call it? Slideshow. And it's got all the technology there back and forth. I was hoping you were seeing the same thing, but that's not what's going on.
Darn, let me try to go full screen here and see if I call layout, window, flow, enter full screen. No, I just see a gray square. There's a limitation there. It's a Skype thing, I'm sure. It's probably just aim the... There you go. Guess we'll just do it like that. We'll just aim it like... Oh, now I see it.
Okay.
Yes, that works. So, yeah, tell us about this system that you developed, because it's a what you call rotary hydroponics?
It is rotating, that's for sure. So it's a horizontal drum. The plants are fixed to the inside of the outer wall of the drum. The light's in the center. The drum is slowly rotated, which I originally did to water it, is what I was thinking. That was the reason to rotate it. And then the plants showed me that that wasn't the only reason to rotate it, because uh, they started growing much differently than they would in a static, uh, like you said, flat Earth environment. So it's sort of like if you could imagine having your feet planted into this drum, and you slowly rotate it through your whole life, you'd either be, limp and sort of floppy, or you'd be like Arnold, you know,
Yeah.
and you'd get all built, or like Hans and Franz. These would be their plants, stocking up, eh?
We're gonna, yeah, we're gonna pump you up.
Pump you up. In this case, it's the auxins. That's what the plant growth hormones are called, auxin. And if a tomato plant, young pliable one, let's say a week old, is kicked over onto its side, and if it's left there, it will make a 90-degree turn back against the pull of gravity in about 15 minutes. So it's you got to be standing there and watching it to see that. But yeah, you can see that happening if you can keep your attention to it. This image right there in front of us. See if I can go back to that. No, that's gone. How the heck do I do that now? Uh-oh.
Well,
Showing up my lack of technology here.
Oh, it's fine. Something I noticed was you mentioned that the plants told you that something wasn't working, and so so I like that. So you have a relationship to the plants. So as you're developing this, you've actually been, interactive and communicating with the plants as to what they like.
The plants actually run the mammals, if you think about it. There are plants that only are able to replicate once their seeds have gone through the digestive tract of a mammal. How does that work? Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a Star Trek episode, when, like the early Star Trek, there's one episode where some aliens are on their ship, and they're moving so fast that you can't see them. So when you split over to the humans, they're, when there's an alien in the room and you're at human speed, it's just some buzzing sound. When you're at alien speed and the humans are in the room, they're standing still. So I like to say, yeah, it's kind of Roddenberry-esque in a way. And then to take that even further, the minerals are running the plants. So that's on, some different scale, right?
Yeah.
We're not aware of that at all, right? But according to some research, the minerals were our cousins there at one time, the Titans. You can look around and see these rather interesting big rock things that actually look like people, look a bit too much like people, right? It's like, oh, oops, weird. That's weird. That's biblical.
And the Volksgarten, it reminds me of the Volkswagen.
Yeah, I couldn't help it. Volks is folks.
Yeah.
And I thought, everybody should have at least one of these things.
It's the people's garden. I like it. And something that, as we go through this slideshow, it looks like I'm seeing different generations of the barrels, or I can see some that were PVC, then some were just like PVC pipes, and some were just like a barrel with little pots in it. Kind of.
PVC pipe are the early ones, and
Yeah.
that's I was using PVC pipe in the flat Earth model, and then I got tiering the things. Well, if you told me you grow hydroponically, so until you actually do that, you don't really understand the limits of the light. How far the light goes, whatnot. Your
Yeah.
plants tell you that real quick, right? When they're in the Goldilocks zone, or what the astrophysics would call a habitable zone for the star. It's all the same math. It's just scale, right? So when you're trying to grow plants, and I couldn't find a a lighting model. All the lighting models I could find were for, offices. So you could, the slaves at the desks could read well enough and see enough so that they were productive, right? I couldn't find a model that would tell you about this until I found the astrophysics model called the Kardashev scale. And that was like, oh, bingo, right. Type 1 was flatland, or worse than flatland, right? You've got the sun, and then could you imagine if you built a hydroponics garden that was sort of inverting this one, where you've got the plants on the outside of the barrel and the light on the outside of that? That seems to me, the least intelligent design, right?
Yes.
And then even worse, make it a sphere, right? Make it a sphere so that it's only the equator of that rotating hydroponic ball on the outside that gets high noon once a day. If you do the math, that's the least intelligent design. And then, you get into more interesting levels, because there's a math, right? There's X amount of light lumens that are coming off that fixture, and then how well do you capture it?
Yeah, because in growing hydroponics, one of the things that I've realized pretty quickly is if you're just doing it as a hobby, like you just have an interest, I want to, grow something, well, that's fine. Maybe you're not so concerned about costs, etc. But if you want to be efficient at all, if you want it to, let's say, be a hydroponic farmer, you want it to have be growing enough plants to be actually a farm to sell things, or even to supply a good number of people. It starts to get expensive, especially if you're doing it and it's not really efficient. And so that's the thing about, as we were joking about before, flat earth hydroponics versus like type 2 society hydroponics. Because, yeah, with the light, the thing I realized is I needed a lot of lumens. I needed a lot of light. And then, of course, with that, what was effective was only really like 1/3 or 2/3 of that light, let's say square inches, So if it was like, say, 14 by 14, it was only really about like a 12 or an 11-inch, area that was really relevant, I guess you could say, that was getting enough light. So you're not even really getting all your light surface anyway when you're using, I'll call it flat earth hydroponics. And then that's only going to work with what's flat. If you want to have if you want to have shelves of hydroponics and you need a light for each shelf. I mean, really, I think lighting is a huge issue when it comes to hydroponics, because that's what people don't always necessarily realize or haven't done it, is that your lights can start getting really expensive.
Absolutely.
And what I love about what you did with the barrel method, like the type 2, the round earth hydroponics, is that
Hollow earth.
Hollow earth hydroponics is that you only need one lamp, I think I see a couple lights in there, but a few lights in the center, and then that's equally lighting everything. And that's, so I was looking at your units, and they are, like one kit, I guess, costs, I see like $1,900, but which seems a little pricey to a person who's doing hydroponics, maybe. But if you've been doing hydroponics for a little while and you realize the amount of plants you're getting, the amount of vegetation that you can actually grow in that, with, for one thing, you're not paying so much for lights. It's actually really exciting to me, because I go, I would buy that, just because I've already done I've done several, like we're on version, 3.0 or, Flat Earth 3.0 now of hydroponic systems
Right.
that we've built. And we keep getting better. But if you're doing Flat Earth, you're still doing Flat Earth hydroponics, and you're blasting a lot of lumens for nothing.
The limitations get in your face really quick.
Yep.
The first one I got into, I inherited shall we call it a medical operation.
Yeah.
From somebody. This is years ago, like 19. I was like the first trailer park boy in 1988, And I was actually in a trailer park on the north side of the Lionsgate Bridge in North Vancouver. And I got one room, in the trailer that I converted over. You darken out the windows, and I had a 1,000-watt lamp in there. And the first thing that I noticed was my plants would grow right to the lamp and burn themselves. And I was like, oh, that sucks. So I kept inching the lamp up higher, and the Goldilocks zone goes with it. So the plants keep inching up higher, and eventually the light gets to the top of the room. There's nowhere I can go any further than that, and I was just lucky that the plants were at the certain age where they stopped growing into the light, and then they can actually produce something. But what was down left at the bottom of the room now was just a bunch of junk. Stringy stuff that's growing too long and tangling with the plants beside it. So I ended up trimming all that away. It was a waste. And the only part of it that's functional is that Goldilocks zone, not too close, not too far.
Yeah.
In the 2 to 3 foot range, or 1 to 2 foot range, basically.
Yeah.
So you get closer than that, it'll burn. You get further away, and then it doesn't get enough light to know what's going on. This image, if you can see this image of flat land in front of you now, is that showing up?
I just see a gray square, unfortunately, where the image would be.
Damn.
I can see all your thumbnails behind there. I can see all those, but I don't seem to be able to. Are you doing a slideshow now, or just an image?
Well, I think if it's funny, when I go to a slideshow, I can't control it. Can you see that now?
I see just a gray square. It's funny. I see the slide. I see all the thumbnails, but I can't see the image when you.
That's really odd.
Yeah, the Skype.
Well,
That's kind of.
We'll have to figure out what to do here, because it's a very helpful image.
Oh, okay. I see it now.
Okay, great.
It's funny. I see it. I see it as I think I realize what's happening. I see. It's my error. I was looking at. I think we have a. It doesn't matter. Let's do this. So you have your video on your video camera's on your monitor, right?
Right.
Okay. So unshare your screen, or let me see if I can do it. Let's see. Open. Yes. Yeah. See Skype. Later. Okay. 1 sec. I see what's going on here. Maybe. All right. Boom. Cancel. Okay. So now I see you. Okay. So.
You see you now.
Yeah. Now I see that. So I think that'll work. Just unshare your screen. So like.
Okay. Well, it says share screen still. It doesn't say. So is that still the place I go? Okay, stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing, and there we go. Yeah, so don't share. And then, yes, now do the webcam aiming at the monitor. Perfect. There we go. Now we see.
All right. Well, let's try this then.
Yes.
Is that still?
Looks good. Looks good. Yes.
So this represents the flat Earth version of the barrel. So there's the same square foot surface growing area here as inside the drum, and I have the same amount of lighting at the same distance from the top of the root medium. So you can see it gets down to the end,
and that's a huge problem. Yeah, I see those little guys on the left. That's something really common with growing flat earth hydroponics, is getting enough light energy to get things to grow. You see a lot of that leggy stuff like that on the left.
And even the stuff on the right, if you compare it to things like this,
yeah,
this stuff is a much weaker plant than what you get from rotating in the drum your whole life. Let me find you an equal plant to that. Can't always figure out what's going on here. I didn't have them set up exactly for this. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, well, those pictures have eluded me. But okay, here's one that'll demonstrate it. This is the control model. So the plant that's about to show up on the left-hand side, come on. Can you see that now?
Now I can see it, yeah.
So these two basil plants are from the same seed stock. They are the same age. All the growth parameters were equal. Lighting, food, air, they were actually in the same room. But the one on the left spent its life rotating in the drum, and the one on the right was static. Regular flat earth. And the difference is dramatic, right?
It is dramatic.
The one on the left is from a different planet, right?
It is from a different planet. It's from a hollow planet. Yeah.
It's from the hollow earth, yeah.
The hollow earth. And I think you had an image there. I saw it there in the thumbnails where it shows like kind of a diagram of the barrel, like how it spins. So yeah, right there, that one.
Right, this gives you
A real idea of what the system looks like.
Just a 2D here, right? You've got your reservoir at the bottom, and this is apparatus for the support structure. This is a reservoir, or this is like the feeding pan.
Mm-hmm.
And the garden is slowly rotating. Light in the center, our little green plants. And as it gets to the very bottom, the roots get watered, and then it continues on.
And then how did you figure out the perfect rotation speed, or is that something you're still tuning?
Well, I spent some time trying to find a motor that would be strong enough and slow enough. And motors have always been kind of a fun little thing to mess with. Now that was like a wood stove or a pellet stove auger motor, 65 watts, about 100 inch-pounds torque. It would shred you slowly. And I really enjoyed those motors. They were kind of noisy, and 65 watts is not an insignificant amount, especially if I can do a grow with 80 watts with a light. So anyway, I found a motor recently that I'm using less than 10 watts for. So yeah, that's been evolving, and I've played with different concepts. I've got a system, that I actually powered the rotation hydrodynamically. I had a bunch of water catchers like cups and things like that inside of a system, and where the roots were, and I was spraying the roots, and on the right side of the barrel where the cups were upward, the openings were upward, they would fill up with water, and when they got heavy enough, it would drag the system around. So I've been, I like to fart around and see if I can get something for nothing, right?
Yeah.
But the rotation, again, I was just trying to figure out eliminating the plumbing. I had a cylinder that was on its end, and I had water-cooled lighting hanging down the center, one over the other, and I had my plants one over the other on this cylinder, and each one of them needed to be plumbed, each plant site, in order for the roots to get enough or proper hydration. And but the plants would turn and grow up and kind of mess with the plant that was above it. It was pretty good. It was efficient in some ways, but the cleaning of it and the plumbing of it was problematic. So I think the second or the third time I was cleaning it, I was like, oh, I'd really like to be able to maintain like a surfing upright posture, load-bearing posture is what I would call it. And that's the first reason why I thought, well, I turn the thing over on its side and rotate it, and then I can just, without having to stoop or whatever, I can just clean what's in front of me. And then I thought, well, the water's even lazier than I am. If I could leave the water at the bottom, I could bring the plants down to the water. And that was a pretty exciting day. And I built the first one out of wood, in the garage. And then that's when I realized my plants were reacting rather fantastically to the stimulus.
And do you have a picture of the latest barrel? Or a fairly latest barrel?
Certainly do.
Because something you did mention was cleaning, and something like about the Hollow Earth Hydroponics, which if you don't have that domain, you should definitely register it while we're talking. Hollow Earth Hydroponics.
It's 3 words, right? Hollow Earth Hydroponics. So it's already kind of, it's not like anybody is going to be searching for that and just go, oh, let's type that in.
Yeah, Hollowponics, something like that. Type 2
Omega
hydroponics.
garden. Omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
So it really means the last garden.
Oh, I like it. And that is the website. If people are, as you are listening, if you haven't looked at the show notes, it is omegagarden.com. And that's where you'll see these, the Volksgarden, which I just love the name because I've always loved the Volkswagen. I love the history of the Volkswagen. I mean, well, some of the characters involved in the initial creation might have been a little bit nasty. I mean, I don't want to go there, but
Adolf made it look cute.
yeah, Adolf and Porsche, they really made it look cool. But it was an amazing idea, regardless of who had it. You know what I mean? And the idea of you had the people's car, then you had the Carmen Ghia if you happened to be like a party member and you could afford something a little nicer. And I'm not really sure if the bus was originated over there or when that came along, what its first year was. But yeah, so when you call it the Volks garden, I mean, that idea of something which is simple, can be manufactured easy, it's anybody can maintain it, and it's a garden, and it can produce enough to be worthwhile. So I see that picture there of it, and you can see all the lush greenery inside. I'm kind of curious, how many pots are in that?
80.
So 80 pots. Okay, so that is just for anybody who's not really familiar with hydroponics, that's a lot for one unit. And then, how many lights do you have in there?
That has got 4 39-watt T5 fluorescents in it. However, I've operated the thing with 3 lamps, 2 lamps, and 1 lamp, and you couldn't really tell the difference between the 2 and the 4. So with 2 lamps, you're talking 80 watts. So, and there's, believe about 19 square foot of surface growing area inside that drum.
And then what size pots in there?
It's an inch and a half, roughly. That's the if you buy a Rockwool flat, those little propagation flats, the one that's got 98 little cubes. That's what these fit. It's a bit of a squeeze, but that's what I'm using in there.
And then, do you find? I'm sure the answer. I kind of know the answer, but I'll ask. Do you ever grow them when they're not fully propagated? Like, I guess you'd probably want to balance it some, because I imagine for some people, if they had one of these, 80 might be a little bit much. So maybe they want to grow, like, say, 40 plants or 20 plants. I guess you would just space those out and just let it go.
Yeah, I find, well, the first ones I did was a mix of things, because I'm throwing spaghetti on the wall looking for what sticks. So at first I don't even know what can grow. So I got tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and lettuces and chards and whatnot. And, some things will elbow their way. Some plants are, size bullies and things like that, right? So, if you're going to be trying to turn it into a business, you're going to monoculture it, because then, you're expanding into a diminishing diameter So, some things will crowd other things out. And you get to learn that pretty quick, though. But
Yeah.
here's that's actually 80 Bib lettuce plants in that shot, and that came out of that barrel
Mm.
at the end. It doesn't look like it, right? It looks like, yeah, right. Uh, and if you thought of how many lamps you'd have to put across that, you pretty much need one a row, and you wouldn't get as nice uh, as nice a end result because you're not getting the rotation right if you're going to grow that flat. So you'd need 20 of those 40-watt lamps, 39-watt lamps. So what are you at there? Uh, like 800 watts for something I can do for 80 watts.
Yeah, you'd need a lot of lights for that. And so, what is the spinning actually offering? Because something definitely is definitely working, and it seems that the spinning isn't just for the watering, where it waters at the tub below. The spinning is doing more than just the watering. Is that the case?
Yeah, the spinning, it's turning the plants, so the plants are trying to grow against the pull of gravity. It's a hydrodynamic issue. It's about drawing water up. And so if you put your thumb over a straw in a fluid that's in the glass and you raise that straw up with your thumb over the end, it'll draw that water up. But if you rotate that over 90 degrees, that suction breaks and all that water runs out.
Mm.
So I'm just was going to bring up something there because I've got a really cool shot. I've inspired a lot of people with this
Well,
over the
yeah.
years. We came
No,
out in 1999, and pretty much everybody with a garage and a glue gun was like, "Yeah, I can make that."
and I could see giving it a try. And in fact, I mean, I'm sure I could make a version of this. I get it. I mean, I put the pots in a. I can go buy a 55-gallon water drum, and put the pots in there, and then. But you know what? The thing is like, so you're selling the kits. What I wonder about is, like I say, anybody who's done hydroponics for a while that knows that price tag kind of sounds a little pricey, but not really. Not when you look at 80, 1.5-inch plants that can grow on, 80 watts, and also the watering is easy. You don't have to have the water. See, one thing also is cleaning, is that it seems like when this is done, your cleaning is pretty easy. Where with a hydroponic system, you do need to occasionally clean it, and cleaning the PVC pipes and such can be a pain in the ass. I'll just put it that way.
Yes.
I mean, and this offers a lot. So I don't think the price tag is really that far off. If a person has a lot of time and wants to make something that kind of works, well, go for it. But for 1900, this is to me, a pretty good deal. What I would ask is if somebody buys one of these, what are they getting when it arrives? And also I'd ask, do they have to buy that whole kit, or can they just buy part of it? Let's say a person's already a hydroponics grower and they have a lot of stuff.
Well, we used to send it um, without the lighting in it. We had a fixture that was light ready, and just because so many people had different ideas of what's the best, and I don't really want to spend my time arguing with anybody, so I'm like, yeah, as John Cleese would say, the customer is always Dwight. So you let him do whatever he wants. However, since I've been this is the Supra. I call it the Volkswagen, the last one, and now this one I call it the Volkswagen Supra. And I'm kind of there used to be a Toyota Supra,
Yeah.
but Supra actually means feast. Oh, let me kill that sound on that. This is a fun video. This one shows the camera then goes inside the garden here at some point and rides
Oh,
with
wow.
the plants, right?
This looks like the International Space Station.
Yeah. And they've got the pump on too much. You can see there was too much water on the inside. Now it's a bit drier. And you can, if you notice, the gravity wave is traveling through those plants.
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
So the plants are reacting. It's basically like an exercise treadmill.
Oh my gosh, there's actually little treadmills for the plants to get their workout.
Yeah, the the plants are working out their whole lives. And
Wow.
if you add a little vibration to the system, when the plants are ready to pollinate, the pollen, you can shake it loose at the top and it'll fall onto the plants underneath it. So auto pollination.
That's I like that. And because something I did want to mention or talk about was, and one of the reasons why I definitely like your kits is, you know, obviously David Devine introduced us, and so we're all kind
Thanks.
of we're all aware of the grand solar minimum and that need to grow some of your own food. And so I like this because this is something that you got 80 pots, 1.5 inch. It works. You get a lot of growth out of it. And now also, like you just said, with the pollinating, you know, because you're going to want to get some seeds sometimes if you're looking long term.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know where I do sell these, that's something that pays some of the bills. Uh, but I think that there's a bigger plan for this, and um, that's the village, the modern day colonialist village model. Because if you're hip to the grand solar minimum, like Mars is heading our way. We're not going to Mars.
Mm.
Mars is coming to us, right?
Well, I know it's retrograde right now, but I didn't know that it was coming to us. I'm not. I don't.
Well, I'm just saying, it's going to be like you're living on a different planet. If you're familiar with Zarkova's model of the solar double dynamo, the calculation is that the sun is going to dim by 60% by 2030.
Yeah.
So if you thought about dimming your lights in your hydroponic room by 60%, and then blow off a bunch of ash into the room, like a volcano, and seeding cloud all through that room because of the cosmic rays, what are you going to yield out of your hydroponics operation? Not so well, right? So what we've got here is here's your single garden concept. This is the Vokes garden, the previous one. This one was twice the diameter, half the length. So I've got a borosilicate glass cool tube, they call them, that you would house high discharge lighting like 400, 600s or 1,000 watt lamps. And you need that air cooling tube, and you have to protect it from potential drips, right?
Yeah.
But then here's the idea that we're going to use, that's a cutaway of a shipping container.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
we horizontal carousel the gardens into it. Now I've changed the design since then, so here's a stack of these containers inside a concrete dome. Now you're inside riding on the storage and retrieval bot, which is so we can automate this whole thing. So basically we can turn an acre of land into 500 or 1,000 acres, depending on what you're comparing it to, or 1,000,000 acres if you're comparing it to now that you won't actually be able to have agriculture because of the grand solar minimum, or that you're in the Arctic or in the desert, someplace that's not the Goldilocks zone where you can have agriculture now. And so this concept is binary. Here's your dot, and here's your line. But in this case, the line is a ring, and this is what I call a habitat ring, because in my my dome, which has changed a little since then. Let me find you a picture of it. Here's the blue wire drawing. So that would represent a 300-foot diameter half sphere with like 1,000 of those containers in it. And each one of those containers has got 114 gardens, so you're talking 114,000 barrels. That means you have to process about 7,000 barrels a day. So you need this ring. And so these things are also shipping containers. You can see it looks like little pyramids.
Yeah.
When you get inside that ring, these are basically, we'll turn these into apartments, or what I call togetherments, because we're all in the ring. And that's actually a concrete wall, but I'm projecting the outside onto the inside of the wall, so it's like you're on a flying carpet or something. You don't really know. It's like that episode of Star Trek. I climbed the mountain and touched the sky, and it was hollow. I don't know if you're too young to to remember those early Star Trek episodes, but
I've watched a good deal of the early Star Trek. I don't remember that episode.
They were on they were on the inside of a asteroid or something that was heading to the promised land, right? And they had been on it so long that they didn't know they were on the inside of an asteroid, and it was illegal to climb the mountains because you could touch the sky.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So this would basically be, you can see here's the stairs going up. And on the first side, you'd have your plumbing and your electrical and all that stuff. And then this would be like a 2-container apartment. And you got a balcony, a 3, a 4, a 5. On the bottom level, I would have, schools or commercial activity or whatnot. And we can house, probably a couple thousand people or more, depending on how large the ring is. And this is what I call like the 21st century Moat and Bailey. The Moat and Bailey was a pre-castle defensive design where you would dig a moat and put the dirt in the center that would give you the defensive high ground. And then eventually you built more and more and more, and that's where the castles came from. The only problem with that is your agriculture was on the outside.
Yeah.
So somebody could come along and for a siege, and there you are, depending on how much stuff you've got, but they can always outweight you if you're on the outside. Here's a basic stacking of 2 single gardens, right? It's just like a bunk bed, and it's not very tall. Like the door behind it is a standard human entry door. So this was within, like if you got an 8-foot ceiling or whatever, that would certainly, I think it was 92 inches in height total. And that's on casters, so you can wheel the thing around. Here you've got, standard pallet racking, and the gardens are on drawer slides. So you can just pull it out and access it from either side and then push it back in and move on. Certainly it's not the most space efficient way to do that. The best thing to do is actually to put the first one I was showing you, the first double stack, because you can put those right up against each other.
Yeah. And
then move it like a library file. So you're moving one aisle from in between 1 and 2 gardens to then in between the second and third, and between the third and fourth, and on and on. However, that is cool, and most people, if you got a warehouse, you got pallet racking, and you're looking at how to use up that upper area.
Yeah.
But I have a little graphic here somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. This gives you an idea on how well to pack these. That's only 10 foot by 20 foot. And I've got 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. So we got 18 gardens there, or is that 36 gardens?
Let's see.
I think that's 36.
4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Oh, and so it's at least, what, 40 that I see. If there's...
It's got 36 gardens there in a
Okay,
20-foot by 10-foot room. And that,
gotcha.
that gives you an access aisle down the center of them, and then a room enough to access your gardens and then push them off and to the next one. So you can have a lot of activity inside of that 10 by 20 room. Uh, 18 times or 36
36
gardens times
times
8
80
plants.
is 2,880. So that's a lot, especially the fact that they're not scrawny. You're getting nice, beautiful plants out of that. I see your 1 inch, 1.5 inch pots in there, but they are spaced a bit. So definitely you can get. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of green, edible stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a
And no one
lot.
has to know, that that's happening, right? Because the 10 by 20 room is not, a basement. If you've got a basement, you've got that room. And what you get out of this is there's a microclimate around that, in that barrel, around that lighting. You've got, again, your Goldilocks zone. So the room might be 60 degrees, but inside that barrel where those plants are, it might be 70.
Mm.
So there's efficiencies. The efficiencies stack. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I like that, the microclimate within the barrel.
Yeah. And you don't actually, people ask about, oh, that's hollow. Can I blow air through it? Well, you only blow air because you're trying to stimulate the plants. And these plants they've got plenty of stimulation. So you don't need to blow them around to make sure they're not weak or whatever you're trying to do with that air. And that's often, there's a lot of energy spent to stimulate plants in a greenhouse. And it doesn't require that in this. You're getting it, as an offshoot of me solving the excessive plumbing issue.
Mm.
One of the benefits of that unplanned.
Yeah, and then your nutrient. So I guess each one has. So
Each one has got the tray at the base of the cylinder.
each one has a tray at the base of the cylinder, and then like in a larger build like that, do you have? I guess you're pumping that. Are you aerating that, or how?
The way I've got the plumbing is there's a T and a couple of ball valves. So you're coming off the pump and you hit the first sideways T, and there's a ball valve going up and a ball valve going sideways, and you adjust it so that when the pump comes on, there's some coming out sideways that's agitating the mix, and there's some that's going up to pump, and there's a return coming from that tray that's set at the height that you want the tray to fill up to. So you're only pumping at a certain speed so that you do not overflow the return flow.
Yeah.
And that sets the height for you exactly where you want it to water the plants, and it stimulates the nutrient. I don't usually put a bubbler or something like that on it. I just find that seems to create more quickly creates algae or some sort of sludge. And I'm lazy. I like to do the least amount of having to clean up.
Well, and it seems like with with the spinning motion, with the since your plants are in motion and they're by the paddle wheel nature of it, you're gonna be aerating the water, the nutrient some anyway.
Well, and the root medium is like a sponge, right?
Yeah.
And so you create a tide that's running through the root medium,
Yeah.
right? So it's drawing. It's also it's drawing the oxygen into that as it's rotating, because again the heavier part where the liquid is always going to be lower at that, unless it's totally saturated. If it's 50% saturated, then most of that fluid is going to be on the bottom of that thing. There's going to be a bit of a tide running through that root medium. Now I've developed a reusable mechanical root medium that can be used in the system the way it is, but I'm also developing it so that we can go into a high level of automation for growing grains. Wheat and rice feed the world mostly. So, you've got to be able to do that. You got to be able to do that. You got to be able to produce the medicines. And what was the other thing the Oracle said? There was three things you had to capture in the hunt to be successful. The offerings to the deity, that's the covered. The grain for the daily consumption, and then the dessert or something. I can't. That's not how they said it in the I Ching, but there was some sort of celebratory kind of thing for the offerings. No, that wasn't the offerings of the deity. It was the ganja. The smoke was going up to the heavens, right? That's the offerings of the deity. Anyhow, that's probably another subject to get into. How all this relates to the Book of Changes.
Well, actually, that would be something fun to talk about. Actually, I mean, so basically, before we mention that, so I guess looking at the site, if somebody wanted one of these, they can go to omegagarden.com, and it's the Volks Garden. That's like the super. That's the basic model. And do they get the picture that I'm seeing? I'm looking at this. Does that come with the stand and everything?
Yes, you get the. Somebody went wild with my concept.
So
it's funny. You can see little sheep and whatnot. Yeah, you get the full package. The only thing you don't get are the nutrients and the things that like pH and that kind of stuff, and the meters or the up and down. You get everything that comes. All the hardware is there.
And you get the bucket, the Tupperware.
You get the tray.
You get the tray for the bottom.
You get the drum. You get all the little holders for the plants. The lighting comes with it.
The lighting comes with it, because I'd be all for just getting the bulbs. That'd be easy. If the bulbs come with it, great. And wow. And so the shipping.
So from the Oracle. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Shipping's about. It says that when you click through to buy it, it's like one price throughout the continental United States. And by the way, we're a Canadian company, but we stock in North Dakota. So if you're buying one from the U.S., we've already imported it. So you don't have to do anything fancy. You just order it and it shows up.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, let's definitely talk about the Book of Changes and the Volks Garden. So I'm really intrigued, and I'm so glad that we met, because, like I say, I feel fortunate that I've been going through a couple of generations of hydroponics here. I've gone from towers which suck, to this, to that, to a bunch of other designs. And I was just getting ready to build a new generation, a new version of flat earth hydroponics, and I was excited about it. And I had a couple of things hold me up, and then met you through David Devine, and I went, wow. Yeah, so I would just tell people, if you're interested in hydroponics, the price tag initially might be a little bit, it might make you hesitate a little bit, but just take it from somebody who has flat earth for a while. It's worth it. If you really want to grow stuff, especially if you're GSM aware and you realize that you're going to need to, if there's a sense of urgency, this is I can't think of a better way to do it or a better way to start. Anyway, I'll just throw that endorsement out there, and I'll send it back to you. Let's talk about the Book of Changes.
Thank you for that. Your observations are, like that was an invaluable observation for people who haven't had that experience yet. And me, I've been so close to this thing for so long that it's a bit like the Oracle, like this book, the Book of Changes. It's an Oracle. You get to ask it questions, and it answers them. It's based on elemental relationships. So there's a 8-direction pattern, like a compass. Heaven, earth is north, south. East, west is fire, water. Then the corners are mountain, lake, wind, and thunder. So it's phenomenon or elements, and then each are compared with each other to give you 64 relationship archetypes. So if you follow that, you there's a way to divine. You ask it questions, you can divine the answers, and I was training martial art based on this book, and I'm walking the circle, the 8 steps in the circle, and then I started carrying things on my head to correct my posture. And I say if you have an antenna, and you do, it's this thing running up your back that we call a spine. It's crystal, it's quartz, like a like a like a radio, crystal radio, you know. So yeah, and you're being bombarded by signals all the time, and this is when the ideas come, when I'm sort of doing this practice. Slowly. I mean, you know, it took years for it to actually come together, so I felt pretty stupid actually by the time it did. But it takes a lot to work on some of these old dumb naked apes sometimes. But this is the result of these things coming to meet each other. The Book of Changes meets hydroponics.
Oh, I like it. The Book of Changes meets hydroponics. Yes.
So now, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to have to run. I'm meeting my nephew, niece and nephew, and we're going out for dinner.
Oh, well, you know, that's actually a good thing to do. I'm glad you're doing that. And then actually, we've been talking for a while, so this is a great, you know, first connection. We'll get this out there, and I'll just ask, I mean, I could certainly, you know, for a show cover, because we usually have an image that we use for a show cover. I love that one of the cat looking at the barrel. But if you've got something that you thought would make a good show cover to represent, let me know. We'll use it. But if not, we're just going to go with that because that's a great image.
Well, that is a fun image, the monster.
If you've got something in mind, definitely Skype it over, and we'll use that.
What this one, I don't know how well you can see, but there's a human right here who's mucking around with it, and that gives you scale. Although the kitty cat just gives you scale, but you don't really know what the cat's looking at. But I kind of like the idea that it's a bit like the Victrola dog.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Well, yeah, people will have to
You
just...
choose.
Yeah, people will have to just listen to find out. Well, yeah, we'll probably call it The Book of Changes meets hydroponics. I love that.
Cats rule the internet, so maybe the cat one is the... And there's this one's pretty funny, although I think I sent you both of these images. That's looking from behind him, right? You got his...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the cats are really into it.
Really?
We had a cat that it was one of the larger ones, and he used to walk inside it as it was rotating,
Oh,
and
wow.
he would graze off the plants. And he was a black and white, so he kind of looked like a bit of a cow cat, you know. And he was in there grazing on the thing as it was rotating. It was very amusing. I have some images of it somewhere.
That's amazing.
Here's actually one of the things that I like about this version of the garden. There's the inside of a drum
Wow.
without the lighting, right? So the lighting comes out in seconds. Pop, pop, gone. And then you've got access to all this stuff without anything in the way. So if you had, you know, hundreds or thousands of them to harvest on a regular basis, you can, you know, imagine you tip it over on its side, you spin it with some little blades or something in there, and woof, the whole thing's harvested in no time flat. However, it could also be, if you've ever seen any of those, you know, robotic hands, they're amazingly dexterous, and they would harvest and replant one of these things in a very, you know, mind-spinning short amount of time. And then boom, it's back into the system. And the nice thing that I see this as a way to what they call it, community supported or community divided or something like that.
Oh, CSA, Community Supported Agriculture?
Yeah, so everybody can own. We can tag them, and trace them and track them. You could own gardens that are in that farm dominium, like condominium without the con, I like to say.
Yeah.
And you could own however many you wanted in a system. It's being operated for you. And then you can take delivery of the produce or of the trading medium that is supported by the produce production or US dollars or whatever, right?
Mm.
And this is a way to organize and do this in a community type scale so that you're not, sitting on your pile and in your stash and your ammo and having to defend it. You can, the design for the farm dominium, I like to say, is zombie resistant. We've all seen the zombies on the news lately,
Yeah.
rioting and smashing stuff. You want to be able to keep the zombies out. And these zombies that we're seeing right now, they're not hungry. They're fed. They're fed and paid. And there'll be a time when they're not paid and not fed. And those are going to be much more serious zombies. Right?
Mm.
And then the survivors of those will be the cannibals. And they'll be newly energized. And now they're coming for you. Right?
Yeah.
Now they know that the humans taste like pork, and they're like, hey, that's not so bad.
Oh yeah. If I just had some greens to go with that,
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
Wow.
and the nice thing about this is this can be done rapidly. This is a rapid rollout model. The dome, the inflated dome, the concrete dome, that could be done in a day. And the
Mm.
ring, well, let's call that 8 days. And the barrels, we can fill the place. I mean, I could have thousands of barrels made a day. And so this thing could be rolled out like amazingly fast. We could terraform the whole place in a very rapid period of time. If you can go to war and blow the hell out of everything, we can,
Make a spinning barrel.
we can turn humanity into a type 3 operation. We can make the small G gods that left us here look like Hicks, backwoods Hicks.
Well, they were kind of, yeah. Well, they kind of were, and
They kind of were. Yeah.
one last question before you go is, along with the kit, so you get the kit, you also get the motor that would spin it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it really truly is complete, because I think that's something that people could work with. It's like, okay, it's complete. All you got to do is buy yourself some hydroponics solution. That's not too hard to do. Make sure your pH is good and plant it, and then let it spin, let it do its thing. And that's inspiring. And I like the idea of, owning it, and it's almost like you've got a farm co-location center. So you can say, I have so many barrels of farm in this co-location, center. So it's quite a model, and it's a lot to contemplate. And I also love cargo box structures, because anybody who's worked with cargo boxes, has been around them. I have seen I've seen cargo box or Connex box cities before. You can stack them a couple high. You can make walkways. It is amazing how creative humans can get with Connex boxes to live in and to do things in. I would say the best thing the old gods gave us was Connex boxes. And we'll show them.
They're still here, there's a reason why a bunch of people went to Antarctica as the Trumpster was getting elected, in 2016 and 2017. A lot of big wigs went to Antarctica for some reason. And if you've ever read the Book of Enoch, apparently the fallen angels, the Ikiki that were operating the way station on Mars, they're all locked in down there, and maybe some others too. But I don't think it's hell. I think it's the Hollow Earth thing, and if it's got its own sun, yeah, Shambhala. It's the place of no darkness, right? There's no nighttime. You can go indoors. It's high noon, 24/7, everywhere down there.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's, and it's protected. Out here, I equate it to if you're a bug on the outside windshield of the car or on the inside of the windshield, which is the survivor, right?
Oh, it's true.
The
Yeah.
wind will take you off if you're on the outside. Somebody turns the wipers on, poof, you're gone. A bunch of things can happen to you easy if you're on the outside of the windshield. If you're on the inside, it's all good.
Yeah.
That's why it's the advanced culture. On the outside, if you notice, we're living in the ruins of whatever has been going on here. There's some pretty impressive ruins out here, and it's all smashed to bits. And every fiat currency has disappeared, and every high culture before this one, if we can call it a high culture, has disappeared. So the odds are that we're going to see that again.
Oh, yeah. I find it comforting. I did not used to find that comforting, but now I find it comforting. Well, yeah, a show that I watch, it's great. Some are video, and they're very well done. And then some are just audio. But it's called The End of Civilization. It's a YouTube channel. And the guy he really amazingly documents the end of a bunch of civilizations. And you realize there's certain... yeah.
I've seen that. I think I've seen that one. I was punching a bunch of holes in it when he got to the Sumerians. He doesn't really touch on actually what the Sumerians left written down. They think all this stuff is myth, Enki and Enlil, and then the same guys are the Greek gods, and the same guys are the Egyptian gods. And so they keep recycling themselves because they show up every 3,600 years. And it's all the same guys. The Indian gods, same. Again, the names change to protect somebody.
Yeah. Well, Ted Marchildon, of Omega Gardens. Let's see. It is omegagarden.com. Check it out. If you've ever had interest in the hydroponics, I can tell you, being a person who has struggled with flat earth hydroponics, this is the way to go. It might look expensive, but it's not. If you don't believe me, just go ahead and build a flat earth hydroponic system or two, and then you'll buy this one. So anyway, well, thanks so much for being on the show. We'll get this posted, and I think this was great.
My pleasure, Craig. Hopefully we'll do it again.
Absolutely. For sure. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
You are listening to Radiant Creators, a collaborative project composed of people whose passion, purpose, and dedication requires forging their own unique path of empowerment and livelihood. A radiant creator isn't making a living, they are living.